Transport aircraft are designed to be practical rather than impressive. Their value lies in reliability, payload capacity, range, and the ability to operate consistently under demanding conditions. When such aircraft are retired, the reason is usually clear. Structural fatigue, escalating maintenance costs, or the arrival of a superior replacement typically mark the end of service. What makes this aircraft different is that none of those conditions applied when it was withdrawn. At the time of its retirement, it met its stated performance requirements, remained structurally sound, and continued to fulfill its operational role. Its removal from service was not driven by failure, but by reassessment. Throughout the Cold War and the decades that followed, transport aircraft formed the backbone of military logistics. They moved personnel, equipment, fuel, and supplies across long distances, often operating far from established infrastructure. Unlike combat aircraft, transport platforms were expected to prioritize endurance and versatility over speed or agility. Once introduced, they were often retained for extended service lives, with upgrades applied incrementally rather than replaced outright. Retirement decisions were therefore rare and typically conservative. The aircraft in this case was developed to address specific logistical requirements. Its design emphasized payload capacity, range, and the ability to operate from prepared runways under varied conditions. Engineers focused on structural robustness, predictable handling, characteristics, and ease of maintenance. The aircraft did not attempt to redefine aviation technology, but instead aimed to deliver dependable performance across a wide range of mission profiles. From the outset, it was intended to be a workhorse rather than a centerpiece. Operational data from its service period shows that the aircraft met these goals. Payload targets were consistently achieved, range requirements were satisfied, and mission availability remained high. Maintenance schedules were manageable, and airframe fatigue progressed within expected limits. The aircraft did not suffer from systemic reliability issues, nor did it impose excessive logistical burden on support units. By conventional measures, it was performing exactly as intended. Despite this performance, changes in operational planning gradually altered the aircraft's long-term outlook. Military logistics concepts evolved in response to new threat environments and deployment models. Emphasis shifted toward rapid response, distributed operations, and the ability to support forces across multiple locations simultaneously. While the aircraft remained capable within its original role, its design reflected assumptions that were becoming less central to future planning. One factor in this reassessment was how transport capacity was distributed. The aircraft excelled at moving large payloads efficiently, but newer logistical approaches favored flexibility over concentration. Smaller, more numerous platforms allowed cargo and personnel to be dispersed across multiple routes and destinations. This reduced reliance on individual aircraft and improved resilience in scenarios where access to airspace or infrastructure could not be guaranteed. The aircraft's strength as a high-capacity transporter became less decisive under these conditions. Infrastructure compatibility also influenced decision-making. Although the aircraft could operate from standard runways, emerging concepts prioritized access to a wider range of airfields and forward locations. Platforms that could integrate easily into diverse operating environments offered greater adaptability. The aircraft continued to function reliably, but it was less aligned with these expanding requirements. Fleet composition considerations further shaped planning. Maintaining a transport fleet involves more than operating individual aircraft. Training pipelines, spare parts inventories, and support personnel must all be sustained. As alternative platforms entered service, overlap increased between aircraft types performing similar roles. Maintaining parallel systems reduced efficiency at the fleet level, even when each individual aircraft remained effective. Consolidation became a rational option. Beyond fleet efficiency, planners examined how the aircraft fit into joint and allied operations. Interoperability became increasingly important as logistics operations were conducted alongside partner forces. Common platforms, shared support systems, and standardized procedures reduced friction during multinational deployments. While the aircraft could operate alongside allied assets, its unique support requirements limited the degree of integration achievable without additional investment. Technological evolution further affected long-term alignment. Advances in avionics, cargo handling, and mission management systems changed expectations for transport aircraft capability. Newer platforms incorporated these features from the outset, while older designs required retrofitting. Although upgrades were possible, integrating modern systems into an existing airframe introduced cost and complexity that diminished the value of continued operation. Cost analysis reinforced this perspective. While the aircraft was not prohibitively expensive to operate, sustaining it required ongoing investment. Training programs, maintenance infrastructure, and long-term support contracts represented fixed costs that persisted regardless of utilization levels. When planners evaluated these costs alongside newer platforms that offered broader flexibility and lower integration burden, the balance began to shift. The aircraft was not inefficient, but it was no longer the most economical choice within an evolving system. Opportunity cost also became a central consideration. Resources committed to sustaining one platform, limited investment elsewhere. Personnel assigned to maintain and operate the aircraft could be redirected to support emerging capabilities. Infrastructure dedicated to the aircraft constrained flexibility in adapting to new mission sets. Even when a platform performs well, continued investment represents a trade-off against future options. Importantly, evaluations confirmed that the aircraft could have remained in service without compromising safety or performance. Structural assessments showed that the airframe retained sufficient life and operational limits were not being approached. The decision to retire, it did not reflect concern about immediate degradation. Instead, it reflected a judgment about future relevance rather than present capability. The retirement process itself reflected this context. Aircraft were withdrawn in stages rather than grounded abruptly. Operational units transitioned gradually to alternative platforms, allowing continuity of service. Support structures were reconfigured, and personnel were retrained or reassigned. There was no emergency grounding, no sudden loss of confidence, and no need for rapid disposal. The aircraft exited service through a controlled and deliberate process. After retirement, the aircraft continued to influence future developments. Performance data, operational experience, and maintenance records informed subsequent design programs. Lessons learned about payload management, airframe durability, and logistical integration were incorporated into newer platforms. In this way, the aircraft's contribution extended beyond its final operational deployment. Some airframes entered storage or reserve status, reflecting their continued structural viability. Others were repurposed for training, testing, or evaluation roles. This secondary use underscored the fact that the aircraft had not reached the end of its technical life. It had reached the end of its alignment with prevailing operational concepts. This case illustrates a broader pattern in military systems development. Meeting technical requirements does not guarantee long-term service. Systems are evaluated not only on what they can do, but on how well they integrate with evolving doctrines, force structures, and logistical models. When those frameworks change, even successful platforms may be set aside. The transport aircraft that met its requirements and was still retired challenges the assumption that success ensures longevity. It demonstrates that abandonment does not always follow breakdown or failure. In some cases, it follows success that has been overtaken by new priorities. The aircraft was not replaced because it failed, but because the context it was designed for no longer existed. For planners and historians, this example highlights the importance of adaptability in assessing long-term value. Platforms must be evaluated not only on performance metrics, but on their capacity to remain relevant as operational environments evolve. When that relevance diminishes, retirement can occur even in the absence of technical shortcomings. If you want more analyses of military systems, platforms, and infrastructure that were abandoned on purpose, subscribe to Echoes of War. This channel focuses on explaining why effective systems are sometimes left behind, not through spectacle, but through careful examination. As the channel moves into its next phase, we'll look beyond abandonment and examine systems that were constrained, limited, or reshaped despite meeting their original goals.